Right. So I'm Sebastian. I'm product marketing lead for a cybersecurity company called Bitdefender, and today I will try to be your source of education, enlightenment, and entertainment. I'm going to try to make it a fun presentation, even though this is a very serious problem. It's one of the most difficult problems in business. That is scaling your product, your business beyond what can be considered a regular constraint, right? So over the past couple of years, I've taken a couple of products from 0 to 1, in the words of Peter Thiel, or from 0 to over $1 million annual recurring revenue after having previously worked on some more mature products. Let me tell you that it's much harder to scale something that doesn't really exist than it is to take something that is well established and maybe grow 15 to 20% a year, right? And the reason that is because scaling is not a conventional problem in the sense that we can do X and get result Y. We are pretty good at predicting impossible outcomes, but quite bad at predicting success. And to give you an example of why that is, gotta ask you, who wants their product to be the most successful? Right? But the thing is, this is why we are biased towards predicting our own success, but also pretty good at seeing what else doesn't work for other people, right? So we know what can possibly scale because we recognize the problems, and usually not our own problems, other people's problems, but we don't know what will actually scale. An example of that is that in 1903, the most horribly wrong person in history told Henry Ford's lawyer that the horse was there to stay, but the automobile was just a novelty, a fad. Obviously, he was a banker investing against putting money into Henry Ford's business. There's a word for that. It's called hindsight, and everybody who wants to look smart today can say, oh, look, Amazon did all the right things in the 90s. Of course, they're very successful today. But can you say the same thing about your own product? Can you say that I am doing the right things now and I will be successful 100% guaranteed in a couple of years? So why do you think products do not scale? Usually there are three things that come to mind. One of them is time, but you can always prioritize. There's a way to decide on what to focus. It's called the Eisenhower Decision Matrix. The American president with the same name used it. Basically, you can map things across two scales. One of them is urgency, another is importance. If things are not urgent and not important, then you probably can safely ignore them. If they are not urgent, but they are important, you can set a schedule for them. If they're not important, but they're urgent, then you can always find someone to delegate to. And we as product marketers should focus on the things that are both urgent and important. Another thing is money, but we can always raise money. For example, the Boring Company, you know the Boring Company? It's not that they're dull, it's that they bore tunnels. It's an Elon Musk company, which was quite strapped for cash, if you can believe that, in the beginning. They sold off 50,000 baseball caps at $20 a piece. Initially, they raised $1 million, and then they ran out of money. And what they did was they launched a flamethrower, which made them $10 million, which they used for their main product, which is digging tunnels and connecting infrastructure underground. Now, another reason is people. One of my favorite books on this issue is The Mythical Man Month, right? It's by a guy called Frederick Brooks. You might have heard of Brooks' Law, which says that any people addition to a project that's already late will make it only later. So yes, you can hire, train, outsource people, but if you don't do it at the right time, then you're probably going to set yourself up for failure. So it's easy to remember. There's a magazine for each of these excuses. So what do we say to these people? We say no and possibly maybe. Okay, so let's see why products don't actually scale. To our shame, one of them is that we lack focus. We are into a lot of meetings all the time. We're looking at data, we're looking at the wrong data, we're interpreting it wrong, and we're not really looking at the market. A lot of what happens in the office is not as important as you think. For those of you who have done the pragmatic framework, then you might have remember Nihito, nothing important happens in the office. It's true. What does originate in the office usually are bland ideas, boring ideas, sort of dull meets inoffensive. It's what Phil was talking about. Everybody is doing the same thing. There are ideas floating in the air and everybody's picking the same ones from the same exact pool of ideas. And the other one is obviously an average execution, because you can't really drive your positioning and your messaging if your starting point is a boring idea, right? So let's see what constitutes lack of focus. To do this, we're gonna play a little game. We're gonna do a round of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, PMM edition. I want you to take a couple of moments and look at this image. It's a real problem from 1942. The US Army looked at the planes that were returning to American bases and decided they need to upgrade their product, their airplanes, so as to make them more resilient to enemy fire. So they looked at every plane that was coming to base, mapped out where they had holes in their fuselage, and what do you think their conclusion was? Which part of the planes needed more reinforcement? Which ones? The nose. Oh, really? You're in for a surprise. So the actual answer is that the cockpit, the engines, and the tail needed the most reinforcement. The first reaction was to think that we're going to look at where the most black spots are on this chart, and we're going to reinforce those. But luckily, they had a guy, a mathematician named Abraham Wald, who told them that their data is biased. They were not collecting the right information. They were not looking at the right angle. So basically, the map actually showed them that engines who had, planes who had suffered shots to the engines were not actually coming back to the base, so that you could drive a conclusion from it, right? We're not as lucky as those people usually. We might or might not have BI teams who deliver the right insights to us. So I'm willing to bet many of us are relying either too much or too little on data. If you're relying too much, then you probably are waiting to take decisions based only on data. If you're using it too little, then you're probably just using your gut instinct. All right, so I'm really glad that Phil made some controversial statements before, because this is also controversial. But if any of these look familiar to you, if you're doing these, most of these are not factors of growth. These are the things that allow us to hold on to our seats internally, into our own companies, right? By the way, if you go and interview for a product marketing role at a different company, don't ever tell them this. You might get the question, like, how do you align people across the company, and the answer they expect is, we're going to make a data-driven decision. Okay. Another big issue is that everybody has kind of the same ideas. This is the Ford Edsel. It's a car that was first introduced in 1957 by Ford with the following tagline: it acts the way it looks, but it doesn't cost that much. By the way, who would want a car that acted the way that thing looked? Right? It was a resounding failure for Ford. And it's a way for us to understand that inside-out ideas are actually detrimental to product success. They can take a lot of forms. Could be like, I don't know, Google Trends saying this is a good opportunity for us, which if it does, it means you are already late to the party. You could say that everybody else is doing it. This is peer pressure. This is looking at the market and saying, oh my God, this is a feature our product needs. We cannot sell more because we don't have this feature. Might be true, might not be true. Then nobody else is doing it, which I call the Ford Edsel syndrome, because, well, there's a reason maybe why nobody else is doing that thing. And this is how it was always done, which is called tradition or peer pressure from dead people. By the way, do yourself a favor if you're working for a company that doesn't allow innovation, says you cannot do this because we have a way of doing things, do yourself a favor and find a different company. Right? Find somebody who has the courage to do 1, 2, 3. And I know it's controversial, but this is the way successful products look like. Bold sales. In 2020, let's look at what constitutes a bold initiative. So this is us on planet Earth. This is where SpaceX and Elon Musk have their headquarters. And this is Mars. This is where Elon Musk is trying to get. What he did is he started a company called SpaceX. Might have heard of it. This is actually just a way for him to transport all of his products onto a new planet. Right? So he has Starlink, which is a way to connect everything interplanetary. It's a communication method. Then he has the Boring Company, which we've talked about, which can dig infrastructure. He has Tesla. He can just send those ugly cars, which have actually been conceived for something like this on a different planet, and power everything with SolarCity and Powerwall, right? And then to the opposing end of the spectrum, we have average execution from a lot of companies. You will know if you look around and you see everybody else is doing the same thing, if you're getting the same results, if you're benchmarking yourself and are happy that you are right there in the middle alley, then it's probably an average job. And if you were not satisfied with Phil's examples, I've got some more from the fashion industry. I've taken out the brand names. Can you actually recognize which brands are shown in the pictures? I bet you can, because I couldn't actually remember them. So I made my life easier and put them right underneath. Right? Everybody is doing the same thing. The clothes look almost identical. The style is a little different. But without the brand name labeled on the images, you could not recognize what they were doing. From the same industry, there is an example of a great marketing campaign, right? And bet you know who this is. In 1985, Tommy Hilfiger was an unknown with a low budget, but was trying to make a name for himself. He collaborated with George Lois, a legend of the American advertising industry, and with a $100,000 budget, they put up an ad in the Times Square, which said, "The 4 great American designers for men are," and you can probably fill in the blanks now yourself. It's Ralph Lauren, Perry Ellis, Calvin Klein, and Tommy Hilfiger. It was so outrageous that he would go after the biggest names in the industry. He, who was a young unknown, that people actually looked him up and came into the Tommy Hilfiger store, and thus he became the legend that he is today. So, if doing the same thing as other people doesn't work, if being average doesn't work, if looking at data all the time doesn't work, then what does? First of all, I'd like to recommend you to do the things that don't scale. Then work your brain muscle every day and be bold. Don't look back on what you've already done. Let's take them one by one. Doing the things that don't scale is a bit counterintuitive, but it's what, for example, Y Combinator recommends to new entrants. You can actually recruit your first users one by one. It might be surprising, but you don't need fully scaled marketing campaigns when you're introducing the new product. You can go out and do it yourself. You can, for example, Stripe, the payments processor, who is now the #1 in the industry. Its founders were doing something different than everybody else. You know, when you launch a trial, you usually go, would you like to try our new product? I will send you a link and you can install it. What they did was they'd ask, would you like to try our product? And when people said, yeah, sure, why not? They'd immediately tell them, okay, give me your laptop. I'll install it right now. You know, they had conversations with their users and try to understand and make them happy. Even if this means having a 30-minute call every day with your largest clients, this is something you cannot possibly do at scale. But if you do it with a sufficiently large number of people, then you will be able to eventually automate it. And just roll up your sleeves and maybe try to solve the problem that your product doesn't yet. Do not scale before the demand is real. This is one of the pitfalls that a lot of people fall into, just wanting their products to grow and be successful. For example, I'm going to tell you a story about how Bitdefender turned a small plastic box into a scalable service. Back in 2015, we introduced the Bitdefender box, which was a small network appliance that would protect IoT devices from consumer smart homes, right? It was mildly successful product. It was the first of its kind. And then a couple of years after, we launched Bitdefender Box 2. Right about this time, we realized this wouldn't scale in this particular format, right? It required us to build the hardware, do the marketing ourselves, and generally put in a lot of extra effort just to make it scale the way we wanted to. So what we did was remove the physical constraints. We turned it into a software platform that would be able to integrate with basically any existing router. It's called the Bitdefender IoT Security Platform, and it's taken our manufacturing problems away from us and allowed us to really focus on integrating our service into as many products as possible. For example, we have achieved 20 times better market penetration with our collaboration with Netgear in the last year than we did in the previous 4 years with both versions of Bitdefender Box. So back to my previous points, I want to ask you, what's scarier? Is it A, solving problems in a way that isn't yet automatic, or B, solving something with something a problem that doesn't exist with something automatic? If there is an opportunity for you to grow, but the possibilities aren't there yet, just do the manual work yourself and then automate yourself out of the loop. Eventually, you will find the momentum you need to achieve success. Then, number 2, always work the brain muscle. If you get 1% better every day, then you will eventually find yourself in a much, much better position than if you would just maybe put in a lot of effort at one particular time and hope that your big launch will achieve you the success that you want, right? These are the things PMM should be good at. Give it a time. Yeah, really. So if you think you cannot get 1% better every day, then here's this list. Take a photo of it, decide on a particular topic that you want to work on, give yourself 30 minutes a day, and you will eventually see better results with your products as well. Then be bold, have the audacity to put a yellow slide in a presentation that didn't contain yellow, right? And don't be afraid to try new things, because people are not going to remember everything that you did, okay? For example, YouTube. Do you remember the early days of YouTube? Did you know that they put up a Craigslist ad for attracting people who were into dating? YouTube founders wanted their platform to get some initial traction, so they tried a lot of things in those early years, putting even a Craigslist ad for, I believe, women between 18 and 35. Slack started out as a video game, actually, and once they realized the unit economics weren't there, and the product would actually cost them money out of their own pocket, they scratched the entire game. They kept the chat component, and they pivoted towards what is now arguably the most successful communication platform for businesses. Then you have a lot of big names who started out as something different or did something different along the way. For example, Samsung. They started out as a general convenience store, including dried fish, flour exports to China. Nokia started out as a wood pulp mill. Then they did some rubber boots. There's actually a company called Nokian, which does car tires and rubber boots, and was a spin-off from the original Nokia. Nintendo started out as a Hanafuda playing card company. It's a type of popular card game in Japan. Then they tried a lot of things along the way, including being a taxi company, a ramen noodle company. They even had some love hotels at one point, which is exactly what you think it is. Yeah. Then Western Union was initially a telegram service until the telephone almost put them out of business, and they had to pivot toward being payment money sending service. My bet is that they will need to do something like this again with the rise of Revolut and instant payments. Play-Doh, the popular children putty, was initially a wall cleaner for coal residue. We are no longer using coal-fueled heating in our homes, but this was a big issue at the beginning of the 20th century. The walls were blackened with coal residue, and somebody invented a substance which was able to clean that, the dirt. But once people started using alternative methods of heating, then they had to find an alternative use to this substance, which is now known as Play-Doh. Twitter started as a podcasting service, but quickly realized that they can do so much more with their platform than that. So I want you to remember that you are freer than you think to do things that you wouldn't normally dare to, because people are only going to remember you for one thing. So I want you to decide which one is going to be. Thank you very much. If you want to keep in touch, I'm very responsive on these 3 platforms right here and on my own website. So hope we'll keep in touch. And if you have any questions.
Yes, I think we might have time for one question, if there are any, either on Slido or from the audience. But I thought that was a really very funny, interesting presentation there.
Yeah, thank you.
Any questions? Otherwise, we can move swiftly on, I think. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.